And we're synced.
And we're synced. Hi, Andre.
Hi, Nova.
Thanks for being here
Hi,
today.
Lorenzo.
Hi, Lorenzo.
Is it everything's go?
All
wow,
systems
everything's
go.
go.
All systems go. You can't see Lorenzo, but Lorenzo can see you.
So perhaps like we should just maybe.
Do you think we could take a moment to just sink in to this moment? Name what's in the room here with us. Okay. Would you like to go first?
We are producing a television show. We're directing, producing, filming, writing, all this stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff. This project has been a lot bigger than we ever thought it could possibly be.
Yes. Indie television is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. And so, we are in one of those weeks where it feels like pushing a boulder up a hill.
And we just found out that the theater that we're filming in is about to close.
Yes.
And so we have a hard deadline. On when we need to film
and
all of our scenes.
That's when I do my best work. So
yeah. And so when you're watching the show, when you get to episode 5, you'll know.
You'll know what we had to do to make it work.
But you know what?
Hint, not pretty.
But that's the sacrifice we're willing to make for you.
That's right.
The viewer.
And that's a sacrifice you unwittingly made to us, is
Indeed.
the quality. But this is indie producing, you know? There are a million factors at play about whether we can get something done film-wise.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. It's hard. And, you know, what I'm always struck by is, like... And this is true even for the most established filmmakers, is that, like, there's always going to be this difference between what you thought it would be and what it actually was. And I naively thought that maybe, like, great directing was simply in just, like, the sort of beautiful scene, beautiful acting. I thought that's what made for great directing, and I think the reality is that there... or even at the highest end, there's going to be gaps between what you thought was possible and what was actually possible. And closing that gap, I think, is probably one of the main skill sets in directing. It's just like adapting. And
isn't that what it is like to be an artist in any medium?
Of course.
I mean,
we talk about this a lot when we were...
That's what writing is, you know. That's what filmmaking is. I imagine. I don't work in other kinds of visual arts, but I imagine that it's a similar thing, that the kind of vision is pure and so close to you, and you know it and you feel it, and then the reality of the thing you produce is inherently not that perfect vision.
You and I have talked about this a lot over the last year, and I think that we've been gabbing in a sort of meaningful way probably for about a year exactly. I feel like July of last year is when we really started gabbing. And then there was the fateful FaceTime from Copenhagen, which is often, the history books have marked that as the start of a romantic relationship.
Start of something.
The start of, got to be okay, that's a Michael Jackson song. I was thinking what that was. And one of the conversations we were having is that, like, I was in the midst, and still am, in the midst of coping with this sort of, like, deep creative wound that came out of, like, post-publishing my book and being like, I'll never write anything ever again. Who am I? Whatever. And we were talking about getting back into a writing world and, like, how deeply painful it was. But then you were also kind of like, can we get a reality check, because what you're describing is simply like writing. Like, how are you gonna write? You're grappling with the thing that every writer grapples with, which is the blank page. How are you gonna say the thing that you're trying to say? So
indeed,
here we are in the depth of the artist's great challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we are living our dream.
Just now before we rolled cameras, Andre said, do you ever think about dropping everything and starting over a new life? And I said, this is the new life that I dropped everything to start over.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
and we are so delighted to be here.
We are so delighted to be here.
You know what? This is just the most pathetic, sad bark. Feels like
Holes for Toby.
Hole for Toby. We got visible Toby. Is the bedroom door closed? Yep. That's just how she sounds. Anyway, we take care of our dog. We love our dog, and she's okay. She's in a happy little place right now. She's just not used to not being allowed to do whatever she wants.
Well, Andre, what have you been watching recently?
Wait, I had some last thing to say about this, which is I think that the great task of an artist and like the artistic life, in order to be a professional artist, these kinds of like dead ends, you have to just be able to tolerate them. And Alice Wu, when we went to go see The Half of It, which is one of our favorite romantic movies to watch together, she said something that you loved and that we talk about often.
She sure did.
And?
She said many things I loved, but I think what you're referring to is she described this process of life is cyclical, where it sort of moves in cycles of projects. And she was describing that she's been through like 8 of these cycles in her adult life. And when you're coming up on the start of a new project, it feels amazing.
Yeah. Right.
And like, euphoric even, right? Like it's just the most incredible feeling of a project getting started and coming together. And then you come out on the other side of it, and then a project is ending, and that feels like dying. And you just have to ride through it, because there's always going to be another project on the other side.
Well, always if you let it come. Like
let it come.
This was by the time we had wrapped up our San Francisco run of Luigi, because we were having a moment where it was like, this feels like dying. This feels like.
I mean, because that was our life for a long time. Mm-hmm. Is that
6
was
months.
Just a show we were putting on, and it was our everything.
Yeah. And then it was closing in San Francisco. I mean, obviously it had a different leg to it. Even if it's the same project, it is a distinctly different process to be producing the New York version of it.
Indeed.
And it was really sad and hard. And thankfully for me, it was my second project death that I had. And so, like, the first one really knocked me out, because I was like, I don't know what's happening, and no one was showing me how to handle the project death at that point, and it took me a really long time to get out of it, really hard. And then by the second time, by Luigi coming around, I was like, oh, this is what's happening here, and like there will be another project. And then we started working on the TV show, and it's been kicking our butts this year. It's been like, it's going to be easily a 12-month project. Who knew? And then that's going to come to an end, and it's going to be feeling like dying, and we'll just... So anyway, my point is that I think that this is really people talk about artists' craft, the craft that they engage in, but I also, like, the work of an artist is also figuring out how to tolerate this crazy cycle and these cycles, and then also stay somehow centered throughout.
And so what would you share to a younger artist who
God.
is going through the end of a project and they feel like it's the end of their life?
First, I just want to validate that feeling, because, like, it's hard to find anyone who, if you're talking with people who don't do art, they will be like, what's the problem here? And they'll try to say things like, you should be so proud of yourself because you wrote this book. They'll talk about how really you should just be looking back on this thing you accomplished, and it's published and it's great. And I read it. No, I liked it. I'm so proud of you. So, and that is like useless information. I mean, I'm sure that there is some psychological benefit to like really taking in this sort of like pride, but like the reality is that people saying that, and you're just like, you have no idea what this feels like. It feels like my soul is being ripped out of my body, and I have nothing. It's just a hollow, because that was the thing that gave you purpose. One of my mistakes, I think, was just thinking like this project would happen, and then I would know exactly what to do about it, or like the universe would present me with jobs. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but that's not how it works. Like, you publish a book and then maybe you publish another one later, but like no one gives you anything to be like, wow, you did a great job, now do this. I don't know.
Well, and still, I mean, when you're in the throes of a project, the project, the craft of it is your constant companion, and it's the toil and it's the struggle and it's the victory and it's just like the process of creating the thing. And it's constantly with you. And then when the project is complete, it's not with you anymore.
Right. So true.
And
It's
on the one hand, yes, there's going to be another project, but it's not going to be the same.
No.
And every project has this beautiful, delightful companionate quality, but they're also all different. And so there's a real sense to which, when a project ends, there's grief to it because that thing is over
Right.
forever. And you'll never experience that thing again.
Yeah, and I think that it's like a constant companion also in the sense that it's also this kind of like organizing principle in one's life. And like for me, I mean, we talk a lot about art. You and I talked about art as this sort of like spiritual thing. And so in the same way that faith is the thing for people that keeps them grounded and coming back, like this is, same sort of like cosmic strength is in each project, which feels, to try and explain that, feels like it could be frivolous, but it's, I don't know, just the truth for those of us who long for a project. And like I require these kinds of projects, all of my, like, this is how I want to socialize, this is how I want to have heartbreak. Like I want all of my things to be wrapped up in this project because it's an organizing principle that helps me protect myself against like existential dread. Because I'm like, this is the problem I need to solve, is finishing this project, not what do I do with this mortal coil,
Indeed. So
anyway, that's
to
where
all the
we're
artists out
anyway,
there.
that's what we're bringing into the conversation today.
And so just remember that the meaning vacuum that comes at the end of a project is a part of the artistic process.
Yes.
And from that vacuum will come new great ideas if you let it. And also you did not budget enough for post-production.
Nor did you think about how much time it would take.
So, Andre.
So we've been watching a lot of things lately.
We've been watching a lot of things.
We
what
were
do
blessed
you
and
want to talk
impressed
about?
to go to New York
We just got back from New York.
with our musical. Did a little staged reading, which is like not really a fully staged musical, but
We did 7 shows.
sold
it
out
went
all
well.
of them.
That was my New York City directorial debut.
Yes.
Um,
And my musical theater
Sure.
debut.
Yeah, musical.
I've done
New
other
York City
stuff.
musical theater debut.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredible. And it was incredible to be in New York around all of the creative possibilities that introduces. The thing that I would say I was so struck by was, I mean, a lot of things, but in terms of art, with that kind of a robust ecosystem, with like just how many venues, how many people, it does feel like anything is possible. And I'm sure that's like a naive take because you get to New York and you're like, oh my God, how do you get through this? How do you survive this? But like it does feel, because there's so much art, that you can be super specific about what your need is, about where you are in your process, about what kind of art you do, all this stuff. And that was like pretty incredible.
Yes. And we did get to see some really incredible theater while we were there. A few notable things that we want to tell you about.
Yeah.
First of all, Dad, don't read this.
Dad, don't read this. I loved everything about that play. And I think that just like teenage girlhood is so rarely taken seriously.
So for those of you who haven't heard of this is a new play. It is a 1-act play about teen girls. It's a cast of 4. And it tells the story of adolescent girlhood through the lens of The Sims. And sort of their efforts to control the Sims and control the world around them, and the limitations of that.
Yeah, and like having, and it was interesting because it wasn't like necessarily, I was expecting more Sim World interaction where it would be like the Sims were doing stuff, but it was, the Sims was kind of this nice touch that was both like woven delicately and then sometimes smacked you in the face. This like my favorite two like amazing, unbelievable moments. I don't actually know if they were the same moment or not, but at one point the main character puts a headband on that has the red sim triangle, the red normally it's a green.
It's called a plumb bob.
It's a what?
It's called a plumb bob.
Plumb bob?
Mm-hmm. Fake Sims fan over here.
I admit it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had friends. Just kidding. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't really.
You know what? If people would show green pluses or red minuses above their head when I interacted with them, maybe I would have more friends.
Isn't that kind of what the play was about? Was like,
yes,
it's easy to tell when a sim is not doing well.
Well, and sort of just the structured simplicity of the life of Sims.
Yeah, they have goals and they're immediate and
Yes.
they're easy to fulfill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No ambiguity.
No ambiguity. And the lead actress, I don't remember her name, but she did just this unbelievable monologue that was basically like an anxious outpouring of whatever was on her brain.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the content? I just remember we were both kind of sobbing through that.
It was a sort of stream of consciousness monologue where she's pulling off pieces of clothing where she's wearing a bunch of clothing at the same time. That was just the sort of content of what she was saying was very discordant with the situation that she was in a way that framed the kind of interaction with the Sims as this kind of escapism from a life that was scary and hard to control in a way that was very, very effective. And at the end of it, brought me to tears.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah, and also just like the talent of the performer. Like I just like the performers themselves were so talented, and to see that kind of talent on people so young was really, really deeply inspiring. That tap dance number.
There's an incredible tap number. I mean, as anyone who knows us knows, we love a good tap number. And this was...
Yeah, but it did make me realize how much I don't know how to tap dance.
Yes, well, what you gonna do?
I just, like... I had this experience when I was in grad school that stuck with me so disturbingly, which was I was like traveling with someone from my grad school cohort. I did not go to school for writing, anyway, I was in this public policy program. And I was writing in a journal while we were traveling together. And she said to me, "Are you writing in your diary?" Like, it was just like such disdain where she was like, "Are you writing in your diary?" Which shouldn't be disdainful to be told that you're writing in a diary. But like, it was just like, we describe young girls and their ramblings as diary sort of oriented writing. It's like internal, it's navel gazing, you know? But we don't ascribe the writings of young men the same way. We don't call it a diary, we call it like journals, papers, whatever. I don't know. I just like, we kind of disparage this sort of internalizing and don't take it seriously, which is like a structural problem in terms of how do we get these stories out, you know? And so anytime I see girlhood depicted and taken seriously as a source of literature, I just think I know that is overcoming all sorts of obstacles in terms of the industry is not making it easy to tell those stories. Indeed. Or take them seriously as like great works. So.
Agreed. And, you know, plays can be good in a lot of different ways. There are a lot of different characteristics that a play can have that you can appreciate. Dad Don't Read This is really dialogue-y, which we love. At least. It was more sort of like lifelike dialogue than I tend to write. I like really sort of, I don't know what you would call it.
I don't know which component of your dialogue writing we're referring to.
I like
You and I often talk about the two of us as a complementing writing pair. And our production company is called Bread and Circuses. Bread and Circuses.
They're the bread. I'm the circuses.
Circuses. Which, like, feels maybe, I don't know if this is the part of your writing that you were getting at or not, but something I do know about a major difference in how the two of us write is, like, you are just, like, an idea machine in terms of you can construct a world that has never been seen or heard of before. You can, like, paint a picture of a world out of an imagination that I think is, like, really incredible.
I have a dissociative disorder.
And I have an anxiety disorder, which means I replay conversations in my head. But, like, you have just such an ability to create a real world out of nothing, out of an imagination. And so you are kind of out there in your writing, which I think is really cool. I think that one of my main skill sets in the writing process is, like, really making those words grounded in, like, the reality of a character and making them much more tangible, I think. I mean, I agree.
I mean, it's I think our writing together is very interesting because it tends to be interesting ideas that are grounded in emotional core of character and relationship.
Yeah, because all of my work almost is, like, in relationship.
But I will say, what we have in common is that we both tend to appreciate stylized dialogue.
Yeah.
And so the kind of dialogue that that's really influenced me as a writer is things like The Devil Wears Prada or, like, Juno, writers like Diablo Cody, who, like, don't write dialogue in a way that's lifelike.
Yeah.
They write dialogue in a way, or Amy Sherman Palladino is also like this, where it's not dialogue that's...
Tina Fey. Like, it's...
Exactly. It's not meant to mirror reality. It's meant to be this kind of idealized form of speech that is, the form and content and structure of the dialogue can convey something about the world that you're being invited into.
Yeah, and, like, it's this is a conversation that we keep having and being like, they don't make TV like they used to, which I don't think is, like, fully fair, but, like, I will say that there are some shows you watch and it's like, yeah, I guess my friends do talk like that, and it's just, like, not... I don't know. I watched I Love LA, and I don't want to put a clip on the internet about me bashing a show where, but I didn't get into it. I didn't love the show. And there was a lot of, like, I don't know. I am so neurotic, and I want television to have dialogue that is, like, ever so slightly beyond what is lifelike. Like, I just want it to be, I want us to be reaching just a hair, because for me, that's what the form of television is, which is, like, it's supposed to be a talkie. It's supposed to be, like, a dialogue that is idealized and not reflective of our reality.
I mean, here's a more positive example is I really like Scenes from a Marriage, but I could never write anything like that. It's this kind of, like, hyper-realistic exploration of the minutiae of human interaction. And what that means is that speech is characterized by vocal filler and and stutters and circular speech and all of these things that characterize real human communication. And that's great, and that's fine, and that's just not the kind of dialogue that I write.
Yeah, I liked that show. I think that is kind of, like, dialogue that I might write, but
yeah, well,
if I'm lucky on a good day.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. But this also brings us to one of the other shows we've seen recently. We're coming back now to our San Francisco life. We will come back to a New York play because we saw multiple, but we just saw The Invite.
Yes.
I thought it was incredible, and I think really distinctive as a piece because of, I mean, the first thing to note is that the whole movie takes place, there's like an opening scene that is kind of like almost like it's roll credits kind of thing, where they like needed something to contextualize the whole show, but it was like a 3-minute sequence of Seth Rogen's character Joe going from work to the apartment that they're in, and then the entire rest of the movie takes place in the apartment.
It all takes place in one apartment.
And during one time. It is like, it is sequential. There's no time gaps.
Time gaps, yeah. Such that watching it, I multiple times thought, why isn't this a play? Because it would be so easy to have this as a stage production. They're all in the same place. It's a continuous chunk of time. You could have, and there's, different things happening at once, but you can have that happen on stage where they're in different rooms. And so I think that it was a very play-like film.
Right.
Insofar as that there's not much of a plot. It's very character driven. It's all in the dialogue and interpersonal communication that you learn everything. And it was extraordinary. It's based on a Spanish film. A Spanish film of the same plot. So we haven't seen it. We should watch it tonight and give our notes, but we'll do. Stay tuned.
Like it's, I don't know if I had the thought, why isn't this a play? I did think this is a teleplay. Like, this is written like a play, and it's because the dialogue was so intense. And then, look, also, and this is what I love about plays, so maybe it should have been a play, maybe it's great as a movie, maybe it's both. But one of the things I love about stage performances, and this is what I enjoy most about being in a stage performance rather than in a TV show, is that you have to watch the emotional arc of the characters. Their entire emotional journey is before you. It's like you have to like feel the rise and fall of each of these characters' experience. And it was something that we say in nonfiction writing. I mean, I'm sure this is true about all writing, but I'm just trained in the essay writing sort of genre. Which is that, like, the more specific you are, the more universal the feeling that you can evoke, which is basically to try and train writers to not be making sweeping generalizations, and that, in fact, it's more powerful to get as specific as possible, because...
Particularization rather than generalization.
Right, and so, like, in the particularization... you can get so much more gritty and real that it then allows other people to relate to it, even though they've never had that specific experience. And there's a temptation to engage in writing where you're just like, we've all had this experience. And it's like, no, tell me your specific experience, and I can think about a time that was similar. But I think this is similar framework of, with this hyper... almost like a magnifying glass on an hour and a half long dinner, you actually learned everything you need to know about the big picture of this relationship. And sure, that was like some craft things allow that to happen. Like, you are meeting a couple and therefore you are explaining how things work in your marriage. But I'm thinking more of these specific moments in relationship that they had where you get the full picture. Like Olivia Wilde's character, who was the guy who was playing, he's in all the Wes Anderson movies. I don't know his name.
Edward Norton.
Ed Norton, yeah. Ed Norton says about Olivia Wilde in her apartment, it's obvious that there's a lot of care that goes into your design choices, and she starts crying. And so, like, you didn't need to say that she spends her whole life hoping that her husband will notice the design care that goes into the house. But her crying tells you everything that you need to know, which is that she's been, like, desperately hoping to hear this from him. And so I think that's what I'm, like, was noticing was, like, you can have something that is such a small snapshot into this moment, and you can learn about a decade's worth of relationship out of it, which I think was really cool.
I agree.
And then you and I fought about whether they should break up or whether...
Oh. Well, I mean, as with any piece of art, we sort of...
projected our own
meanings and experiences onto it.
Sure.
But...
There's another example of a creative wound being explored, because Seth Rogen's character was really for me, I was identifying strongly with him throughout the film. And he was basically like, he's been depressed because he doesn't know how to heal his creative wound of the past. And that was getting in the way of everything. And I think that's like such a very specific experience that I don't know if other people would have noticed it as strongly as I did, where I was like, oh man, if I am not careful, I could end up in the same way. But
I gotta say, Seth Rogen, I am continually really impressed with him.
I know, he's amazing.
And I am a little bit upset by that, because I wasn't a fan of his early career work, and wanted to be like, this is just some douchebag bro comedian who I don't have to pay any regard to. And alas, he's very thoughtful and continues to make increasingly interesting and sophisticated stuff. And at this point, I'm just a fan. He's won me over, and I'm not happy about it, but I will watch anything he ever makes from now on.
I agree. In a tour, I was just having a moment while you were talking about that, where I was like, God, in the depths of my most intense periods of weed usage in my life, I was like, Seth Rogen has a lifestyle brand, but for a while he was also selling weed.
Oh.
Yeah, it was called Houseplant, which is the name of the brand.
Well, who wasn't, right?
Move on from that. Legally, I'm not sure you should talk about that. Yeah. Seth Rogen was selling weed. Actually, the story of me falling in love with one of my girlfriends who wasn't you has to do with Seth Rogen, but we don't have to talk about that.
No, we don't.
You have such a loose and casual relationship with all of my ex-partners because you are so confident that you're the love of my life, which I love for you and for me, because it's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't have to talk about it anymore. But I was smoking a lot of weed, and I really, really liked his brand of weed.
If you were to have a lifestyle brand, what would it be?
It's the same exact brand.
It would be...
I just like all the aesthetics of smoking weed. I like... Yeah, like I obviously am aware that it is not healthy for my brain to be a stoner, but like everything about stoner culture, I'm just so pro. I shouldn't do it. I mean, I shouldn't be a stoner, period. But I do think I like it. You do some talking, you do some music listening. So I'm just trying to approximate everything else that
reluctant stoner.
You're a reluctant stoner?
No, you are.
No, I'm enthusiastic.
An enthusiastic.
But I shouldn't. But former.
But
retired. Yeah, guilt-ridden. Yeah.
It's sort of like
I think they just
like
call that addiction.
Tore your ACL.
I think they just call it a drug problem.
I see. I see.
But I don't. I'm trying not to engage even in close to the same way. Anyway, the point is that I was just thinking about the time I was like pulled my car over like 5 lanes of LA highway traffic to stop by the one dispensary that carried Seth Rogen's weed. And I've been a fan of his since then.
Very good.
Yep. Anyway, sorry for telling everyone that.
Well, one more play that we saw recently was Death of a Salesman on Broadway with Nathan Lane.
Wow. Wow.
As I always say, there are 2 wolves inside of me. One who doesn't want to see plays written by dead white men, and the other who loves Arthur Miller.
In fairness, he was like with it. He was a communist Red Scare victim. He was doing the thing. And
he was just
anti-capitalist,
brilliant, angry, man of the people.
I agree with you that I want to decenter the dead white man. However, I do think that some of the greatest critiques of white patriarchal culture have come from dead white guys because they're in it. Like, I think The Great Gatsby is an amazing commentary on what, like, the drive for wealth building will do to you at the end of the day.
Sure.
The play was incredible. I mean, we I don't know, had you actually read Arthur Miller before we wrote it into the show? Be honest.
I don't know.
So we wrote about Arthur Miller in the pilot of our TV show, and I personally had never read any of his work.
I mean, I still haven't read any of his work.
Okay, great. So we're on the same page. We've not read any of his work.
He's a playwright.
So
you don't really need to read the script. You should go see the play. If you ask me.
Mm-hmm. And so
unless you're an actor or like a director, then reading scripts is something that's familiar to you. But I don't know why, like, we're having high schoolers read Shakespeare in school. It's a play. Like, reading a play script is like a technical skill for actors and directors and people who work in theater. But I think that high schoolers
and how
should
do you think
watching staging
yes
stuff.
And how do you think a high schooler might one day plan to become a playwright or director if they're not exposed to it in the classroom?
Well, but in English class, there are lots of forms of writing that teenagers are not.
Yes, but this is their smorgasbord of options when they are in high school. So you need to expose them to different kinds of genres for that reason.
I see.
Yeah.
And we think that Shakespeare is like the most accessible play
I read
to read for
Shakespeare
high
and
schoolers?
other plays when I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like Is God Is.
Nope. And that's all that on that.
To any English teachers watching, I think that would be a better choice than Shakespeare, quite frankly.
Have you read that?
No.
Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah. So
but
just keep in mind, she saw a trailer and she's telling you that that's what she would prefer.
And I did listen to a long podcast with the playwright. So
I already can tell just based on, I was going to see it and then it was a very small run. It did not last very long in theaters, which is a shame. But I believe that it would be a better choice for a play than Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare is really, really hard. I will say trying to figure out what Shakespeare is saying is like kind of a fun exercise, but I still agree it's overemphasized. Also, at one point, he was just some guy, you know? He was just some guy, and at the time, I don't know that. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
And don't get it twisted. Like, I'm a Shakespeare fan. It's just, I feel like that's kind of like
I'm getting into a hole that I don't know if I can actually argue my way through.
Anyway, let's get back to Arthur Miller.
I don't want to like stand on in terms of, I disagree with you. Plays should be read in high school, and lovingly with care and compassion in all forms. Mm-hmm. I had not read anything of Arthur Miller, nor had I seen anything of Arthur Miller when we presumptuously put it in the pilot of our TV show.
And here we are.
Then we watched the filmed version, I think the only filmed version of Death of a Salesman.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, seeing it on a stage. I mean, in fairness, this is like the most. If there's a blockbuster version of plays, like this is it. Like this is like it was like the big ass theater in in Madison Square, whatever, in Midtown.
Yeah.
On Broadway.
Yeah, this is like the Avengers film of. This is like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of theater.
And you know what? It felt that way. Because, I love Dad Don't Read This. I love the small, intimate. I think there's something so vital about having 100-person small, independent theater. 100%. And I think that it's easy to get pulled into it. And to pull someone into a non-musical play in a theater that big, I was just like, you did it. You did it. And it was the production design. There's a car opening moment. Willie Loman drives. I mean, it was just pulled on a track, but
there's a car on
drives
stage.
This vehicle forward with these lights, and you're just like, your body is already experiencing chills. And then at one point, there was like a lighting thing that happened that was like so precisely and well timed. And of course, now that we've been on the back end of stage producing, we're like, that stage manager must have been on his shit, her shit, on their shit,
whoever
on their non-binary stage manager shit.
Whoever is stage managing that, it was
holy shit,
incredibly executed.
Yeah, and then like
very interesting score as well. I mean, there's not a score to the actual play because it's not a musical, but like there were these musical elements of it, of like light little instrumental effects that really added something very interesting to the storytelling. I don't know who the composer was, but
the performances were, I mean, Meryl Streep has now famously on the internet said that she realized that she doesn't know how to act after seeing Laurie Metcalf performing, but like wow. And then you like Nathan Lane at the end of the night, he takes his bow and it looks like he's been through a fucking war.
I would love to know psychologically what that's like 6 nights a week to be coming to the decision to kill yourself. I mean, is what happens for that character.
Right.
Like 6 nights a week. Spoilers. In case you didn't
know.
A death.
I mean, there's a death at the end.
There's a death.
At the end of the show, there's a Salesman and he's dead.
But I wonder what that's like psychologically for an actor to have to go through that frequently and that intensely.
I mean, like even going through Luigi, 1 hour of joyous buffoonery on my part was emotionally exhausting just because you're on. Mm-hmm. But to do that and do like that level of emotional excavation. I mean, we've talked about this on another episode where you were like getting betrayed by you for an hour.
And I mean, I do think that film acting is probably different in the sense of there's less of a container around it, in that you have to be like in and out and in and out and in and out, like as you're sort of moving scene to scene. And like with stage acting, it's all, there's the container of curtain to curtain.
But then it's so real because you are like in it and you are lost in this world for an hour and a half and you are completely experiencing, there is no, I mean, I'm sure that a film actor would say that there's no distance between them and the character and what they're experiencing. But like, I can't even, because you have to rile yourself up and like, a great play. We've talked about this before because we saw Mother Mary with Anne Hathaway, and this is no shade on Anne Hathaway at all, but like her character plays this like, is betrodden a word?
No.
Sort of.
She's in crisis.
She's in crisis, yes. And she's in crisis the entire movie.
So she's at a 10.
She's at a 10.
For like an hour and a half.
I would say a 9. She's at a 9 for an hour and a half, and it's this. And like, more 9 does not make it a more emotionally compelling film. What makes an emotionally compelling project to me is like the sort of
you're taken on the journey,
is like seeing the rise and fall of these things and like hitting the high notes and the low notes. That's what for me always feels like it's has done something. And so a play, I think a good narrative relies on some sort of emotional climax. It doesn't have to be some sort of like major fight scene, it's not like climax in that sense. It's more just like there's some sort of emotional crest that happens in any play, any story. And so the actor's job is to take you from entry to that point. And I just like, I can only imagine that feels like running a marathon every day, trying to like get there. And so when he takes his final bow at the end, I'm just like, he looks like he's going to go home and weep into his hands.
Well, and I mean, it was an incredible show, but I mean, I was like, is this good for you, for you? As a performer? Like,
and not to mention, go ahead.
Well, I just don't know. And so I would love anybody who has played Willy Loman in the comments, please let us know.
Willy Lomans.
Or similar types of roles. I mean, just like, what does that do to the person?
Oof.
The
or is
actor?
It good for you? Or is it good to microdose emotional intensity?
Yeah.
Have access to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and sort of have a container around it where you get to sort of have this sort of deep emotional range to your daily life, and sort of go into the depths of darkness while you're on stage, and then like, go home to your family.
Yeah. I was just gonna say one last thing about that, which was no, I forgot completely.
Alrighty.
Well, this is completely unrelated, but it's still part of Death of the Salesman, is like the one thing that they did that I thought was cheeky moment, is at one point in the script, Willy Loman has to go to his young boss, the young boss who has inherited his father's company, basically. And Willy Loman felt that the father had some sort of like loyalty to Willy Loman. Willy Loman goes to now the person who runs this company, and he's basically like, please, you need to give me better working conditions because I can't keep driving on the road and I can't keep working on commission. I don't have the money. The dream is dead. And they had the character in this staged version. Oh, I remember the thing I was going to say. Should I just go back or should I keep going with what I'm saying?
Baby, I can't make that decision for you.
God, okay. Then we'll just forget it ever happened and we'll not come back to it.
Forget what ever happened.
Well, I was making a comment about how, like, the demands on Broadway right now are, every piece of the entertainment industry, just like every piece of the economy, is suffering under the weight of our global economy right now. And, like, we've talked to a lot of people in New York who were like, oh, it's great that you're seeing Death of a Salesman, but you have to understand that, like, they're bringing Hollywood A-listers in to perform in these roles, and that's edging out the rest of us from getting these roles. And then also, I'm sure that Death of a Salesman, I'm sure they're making Nathan Lane do more shows of that than, like, an unprecedented number of shows, I would guess, is what they're probably asking of him. And so I don't know if it's even humane to be on Broadway that long doing this role that many times.
I agree.
Okay, that's all I was going to say about that.
Relatedly, we saw Mariska Hargitay.
Wait, no, see, I'm not I haven't finished yet.
Go ahead,
I'm
baby.
so sorry. Just remember, this is what you love about me.
Mm-hmm. We're going to cut this out.
Okay, fair enough. But the tech bro, they brought in Willy Loman's new boss as a young guy.
I think you should start over from...
Okay, start from the beginning of that. One thing that they did in Death of a Salesman is when Willy Loman has to go beg his young boss to adjust his job so that it's not on commission and it's not traveling because he needs stability, is that they had this really anachronistic tech bro prototype as the young boss. It was completely out of, like, character. It was not out of character. It was anachronistic. It was, like, not within the world of the Death of a Salesman world.
Can anachronistic mean it's too far in the future?
I don't know.
I've only heard that used to mean it's, like, from the past. It's, like,
they brought
too
a past.
old-timey. Like, if I had a pocket watch, that would be anachronistic.
Yeah, no, my biggest reference to the word anachronism is from a Gilmore Girls episode in which Paris chastises Kirk for not wearing a shirt made out of cotton instead of polyester because they wouldn't have had polyester back during the Bracebridge dinner time. So
nice.
That's all I know about anachronisms.
Well, be that as it may, this character has the costume that evokes a modern day tech bro.
Right, the vest.
Which is historically out of character for Death of a Salesman.
Yeah, and I think that was a really short little wink that they did in order to make a commentary, because it's hard to make it seems like a timeless show because it's about America. But, like, it feels like when you think about shows that have multiple runs and multiple iterations, you wonder how you adapt it for a different audience, or how you make the commentary on whatever's, like, pressing. And I think that was it, was like they had this tiny little moment where you're like, that's supposed to be a tech bro. or a finance bro or whatever. It's supposed to be this picture of a powerful young white man in business, specifically looked like he was in tech, and you, for the briefest of moment, you're able to keep those two things together, which is like this ongoing struggle to find stability in this country and what's currently happening in the sort of like tech space.
Well, and in Death of a Salesman, the attitude of this boss character is this sense of like, why should I as a boss care that you need money for your family? I'm here to run a business.
Yeah.
I'm not like, this isn't a charity or whatever. This kind of an attitude of like the material needs of my workers are not the thing that decisions are based on. Decisions are based on efficiency.
Yeah.
Which is kind of feels very very modern in the sense of like, this is the relentless pursuit of efficiency is the thing that we have seen hollow out community infrastructure over the past 50 years.
That scene classically has the young boss is showing off a piece of technology that he just bought to Willy Loman, and it's like kind of a really goofy piece of technology at the time. It's still, I mean, it's such an important to have a device that records and replays audio would be crazy. But like, he's just like, look at this cool thing. You can hear my daughter speaking this morning. It's just like this useless sort of piece of technology in the context that it's in. Of course, like here we are in this recording studio, but like, it makes you really feel like this guy's selling, or he's focusing on this futuristic thing and then leaving Willy Loman in the past. I think it's supposed to be the vibe of that scene. But it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. And I liked how they had a subtle nod that was just there for like, to remind us all what we're talking about. But.
And speaking of bringing Hollywood actors into Broadway, we saw Mariska Hargitay in Every Brilliant Thing.
Yeah. Which,
first of all, Every Brilliant Thing is
the brilliant thing.
Is an incredible script. I mean, this is a really, really interesting and really, really well done play. That was the second time you and I have seen it. We saw it in London last August, and then saw it again this summer in New York.
And the play is meant to rely on a very boisterous, powerful, compelling single character. It's a one-person show. Other cast members are played by audience members, which I think is one of the most amazing. I saw that and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to copy this exact thing for something I'm doing. But that's neither here nor there. But like, to include the audience as part of the show, unbelievable. So the main character has to do so much emotional labor and carry it through. And like, it's meant to be played by someone who, I mean, we didn't know any but the London performers, but I'm sure Londoners know who they are. You know, it could be their version of the Mariska Hargitays. Daniel Radcliffe debuted the role in New York, and then it was Mariska Hargitay.
But it can be, the script is written in a way where it can be played by someone of, like, it's any age, any gender, any race.
And the character's never named.
Mm-hmm. And so what that does is that they're, like, any actor that plays it is going to change it, right? Because, I mean, anytime an actor picks up a script, they bring their own sort of self to it. But this is sort of particularly true because the same lines read by a man versus a woman on stage evoke something different for the audience.
For sure.
And so, of course, it's different seeing Mariska Hargitay play the role as opposed to someone else.
But so there's this need to bring in, because the theaters in New York are also struggling in the same way every other arts organization is struggling. They are bringing in these characters, these actors, to bring in the audience. And who is more New York than Mariska Hargitay who plays Olivia Benson on Law & Order SVU. Then, of course, I don't know, we were just... I mean, this is also... We had a particular audience in New York, which was tough because...
This audience was awful.
I'm so glad we always balance our two approaches to...
No, it was shocking.
If you were there
unbelievable.
on June 12th...
If you were there on June 12th, I would like you to answer for yourself. So, for example, midway through, someone in the audience
part of the show.
Shouted out,
"Yeah,
we love you, Mariska."
But it was like during...
And this was like during a part about suicide. Like it's a play about parent suicide and bipolar depression. Like, and at this important moment, this audience member yells out that it was so offensive. It was so offensive to everything. I mean, to the whole entire tradition of theater. So whoever did that, I hope you're ashamed of yourself. I hope you see this, and I hope you turn red in the face.
All right.
And I hope the next time you go to a play, you have some respect for the playwright and for the actors and for the entire tradition that you're spitting on. It goes all the way back to Aristophanes and earlier, and all of them are looking down at you from the afterlife, and they're ashamed.
So anyway, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the bravery to say things that I simply won't say. But I the show does leave ambiguously whether this is meant to be viewed as like Mariska Hargitay is because the character's never named. So it's like, and it reads as a sort of like storytelling vibe, which I'll come back. I mean, maybe we don't have time today, but like I got my start in terms of where I feel like my craft began. It was like doing live storytelling, which is not stand-up and not quite writing. Like it's somewhere in the space between those two things. And so I think it's meant to be viewed as like whoever is leading the play is supposed to be evoking, I'm telling you a story. And so I think that the actor does bring in a certain presence, and that was part of the point of this whole play, is like bringing in this actor for like guiding the storytelling. But it seemed like Mariska Hargitay could not shed the fandom of the Law and Order sort of thing. So like I do agree with you that it was completely inappropriate. And
I think that this is part of casting, is that people have their associations with an actor.
Right.
And they bring that to the viewer experience.
And like how many actors have maybe made pivots from movies to... I mean, Daniel Radcliffe, immediately after Harry Potter, he went straight to the stage. And he was on stage for like a decade, I think, after Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And is only now making like a film TV return. But, you know... I don't know. You just have to carry that with you. But also, if this is the model that people are using to sell tickets, this is kind of the situation that we're in, is like, you're bringing these big ass personalities in.
Right. So that the people visiting New York City from Cleveland will see Mariska Hargitay.
Shade on Cleveland for no reason at all.
And buy tickets.
Yeah.
I love Cleveland.
I've never been.
They have great theaters there. The second best theater city in the Midwest.
What's the first?
The audience knows.
So anyway, that's all I was thinking about.
And then the last play that we saw recently was the Heated Rivalry parody musical.
And we loved that.
We loved it. It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was silly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys can't tell anyone this, but we hadn't seen Heated Rivalry, the show, before we went to the Heated Rivalry parody musical.
That was a lie. That was heavy on us that week.
And I
think I've seen it all, to be honest.
Hold for ambulance.
We've got visible ambulance.
And so, believe it or not, I think that we were able to understand the plot of the Heated Rivalry parody musical without having seen Heated Rivalry. It was excellent. I really liked the way that it played with the public perception of the show as
That was the framing device, I think.
The framing device is like Midwestern moms with unhappy marriages and drinking problems watching.
And that's not our commentary.
Gay
That's just
hockey
what was
players
happening.
with big butts.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I'm extremely cynical, and if I was writing it, I would have made it much more
God, this was
heartless. This is a fun musical. And I'm not known for being fun. So I really admired the way that they were able to make this a nice experience for the viewer. I just find that I'm always intentionally making it a bad experience for the viewer because I'm mad at the audience and I want to punish them for
partaking in the spectacle of theater. Yeah. And some people in your life who you love may just sometimes want to do something
fun
because it's fun.
Yes.
And in fairness, you were singing all of the lyrics to that soundtrack.
Gay hockey players with big butts, and Shane Hollander slapped that stick.
Yes.
It was really fun. Something that I noticed the past few plays we've been to, the Heated Rivalry parody musical, Dad Don't Read This, and Every Brilliant Thing, all included lines being delivered from the audience. And so people are really playing with the physical boundaries of the stage a lot. Not Death of a Salesman. Okay. But the other ones. And so like the actors are not always staying within the container of the stage. And I think that that's very interesting because it's traditionally that's like the illusion is meant to be maintained, that this is like a separate, you know, world or whatever that the stage is in. And like a fourth wall break is addressing the audience directly. It's
or acknowledging that they're in the room.
Right. And this wasn't necessarily that. It was like lines were delivered from the audience, still in character, without sort of acknowledging that there was an audience there.
Yeah.
But it was just like playing with the physical environment in a way that I found very interesting. In particular, in the Heated Rivalry parody musical, there's a part where he orders a drink at a bar, and they use the actual bar that's in the room with the audience.
Yeah.
And that was clever, interesting.
And I think that's part of like playing with the form of what you're doing is like you have a live audience. You have a live audience. This is a one-time only experience of having this particular audience in this particular room. And so how can we play with that?
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
And that was our week in theater.
I
have nothing else to say now.
Nor do I.
Because we have to go solve whatever production crisis we might have.
Yes, we are in a production crisis.
So if you want to check on us later and ask how we're doing, we would love that.
Well, we love you.
And you. And you.
And even though we seek to punish you.
Not me. Just her.
Even though I have an ambivalent relationship with the audience. I love you. Specifically. Okay.
And that's that on that.
Tune in next time for Thespians TV. This has been Andre and Nova.
And I'm Andre.
And I'm Nova.
And that's Thespians TV.